125 to 80 in the 80s.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's see how you are today.
Okay.
It changes all the time. You can start with whatever you want with this. In this case, I'm going to start with blood pressure.
I was rushing to get here and I'm a little nervous, so it might be a little
Okay,
elevated.
well, we're going to see if he has
Okay.
white coat or
All right.
blue coat syndrome.
You hear that a lot.
All right. You do have to learn to kind of multitask and be able to work two hands at once doing this. So I want you to think about that. I'm going to go ahead and stand to make this a little bit easier for me. I'm going to get him to a height that works for me. And I'm also going to work, I'll show you the two different ways you can do that. So I'm going to raise you up just a little bit here. Okay, two different ways. I need his arm basically at heart level, so in this area, and I don't get to bring this in and place it on me or hang on it or anything like that. Remember, this is touching them. This is their space, my space. So you can have, I'd like you to uncross your legs though, and if you wouldn't mind, can you raise one of your knees up?
Sure.
He can do this, a little less, a little tight. Are you comfortable like that?
Yes.
And I can have in this range. When I'm doing his blood pressure, I'm actually going to want the palm more up so that I can get to the brachial and radial pulse. Yes, let me get my orientation. So I want to be able to get to both. If this isn't comfortable, you can, let's have you try just resting your arm. What do you prefer?
Oh, I like that.
Can you push down on that seat for me, just a little? Push harder. There you go. There. I think that looks better.
Yes.
So a lot of people might like this better. And then they can rest, and you can even turn this so they can get nice and comfy, you know, however it works for them. All right. No legs crossed. Yeah, we don't
Very
like the legs
good.
crossed.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
No, because it will interfere with just the free flow.
Okay.
So your book says right here, what's this called? Antecubital fossa. Remember, fossa is that little depression. So about an inch above that, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to place, and look, it's marked. Look for your put your artery mark there. Actually, I'm going to tell you to offset that just a little because you want to be, it's important that you be able to read the dial. And if I set this clear to his, the radial pulse, which is more, the brachial pulse, which is more on the medial side. Medial.
Correct.
Yeah. Then it's going to be way over here and I'm not going to see the dial. So I'm going to offset it just a little bit. Run it around and tighten. If you have a lot of extra, kind of tuck it. You can fold it back and tuck it under. But if you tuck it under your dial, you'll help hold your dial in position for you to see. Okay? So as long as that's there, about an inch above, I want to feel. One of these people I'm not going to have a hard time finding.
Pump it.
Pump it. We would like you to actually feel for his pulse, find the brachial pulse, and know where you want to place your stethoscope. So once you find it, if it'll fit, I don't even need him to hold it. I can kind of catch it under the corner of this. If I wanted him to, I could say, would you mind just holding this a little bit? And then you want to tell him, I'm going to be feeling for your pulse down here, but as soon as I come up here, I want you gone and I'll take control. Okay? They don't get to hold it the whole time. You need to have some control. Or I don't really need you. So I'm going to have you there. There you go.
Are you alive, Mr.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I'm feeling the radial pulse, and I'm going to start the pump here, when my radial pulse fades out, I've got enough pressure that if I pump higher than that, I should hear all of those Korkhoff sounds. If I didn't do this, I could do one of two things. I could pump them up to 200, 220, and really constrict and blow a few little blood vessels in there, and be kind of mean, because you all should know what that feels like. It can feel really tight. Or I can take his radial pulse, know when it falls out, know I need to go about 30 milligrams of mercury higher. If I do that, I'm gonna get all my Korkhoff sounds, I'm gonna hear what I need to hear, and I'm only going as high as he personally needs without doing, you know, a lot of constriction and damage. Not everybody needs to be pumped to 200 or 220. Some people you might find you pump to only like 130, 140.
Are you pumping after you take the pulse or while you're feeling
Okay,
the pulse?
this is just for the pulse, and I'm gonna pump at the same time, so I have to get set.
Oh,
So I
okay.
need to talk. So I know where this is, I know where this is. I've got my dial where I can read it. Now, I need to, I'm gonna get my earphones set, but I also want to make sure righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, all right? Remember that? So, I'm going to have a hand here. I'm gonna come back and take control so that I can have my stethoscope nice and flat on his arm here. I need to be able to for me, that means if I'm doing my right hand with this, my left hand needs to do this to open and close it. So I want to make sure my valve is movable, and then I want to close it, but not so tight that you feel like you need a second hand to come over here and loosen it. Do you follow me? So check it and make sure there's tight, and I can do it. So one-handed, because I'm going to pump, and then I need to loosen it a little bit. After I pump to the height I need, I'm going to start loosening it. I want to loosen it a little so that it falls about a second. It falls about a couple of points a second. So it'll go like this, so that I can hear all the sounds. If I went kind of 30 higher than when this pulse went out, I should be able to drop about 20 or so before the first sound's going to come in. That first sound would be my what pressure?
Systolic.
Yeah, that's your systolic. And then I'm going to keep listening. Remember, it's going to go through all those different changes of sounds. Some of them will be nice clicks, and some of them will be kind of more swishes, and that you want to hear, is it pretty steady? And then it's going to start fading more. And when it completely fades out, that's my diastolic. And then I can open this all the way and get the pressure up completely off. So the blood pressure is how much force it's taking his heart when I've constricted it, how much it takes before it'll pump it through that constriction. That's, you think how hard it's working to get that way. But the diastolic, before it evens out, it's still having to work hard. So if that diastolic is high, that's even a more critical point than the height of your systolic, because it's still a harder force. And then everything is flowing even. Okay?
Are you actually reading this?
I'm going to read this.
Is what's determining the 120 over 80? So
Yeah.
you're, okay.
So and if you look at the marks, I've got 20, 40, 60, 80, and in between are like the 30 isn't marked. But then you have 2 points in between.
Right.
Well, unless you are Miss Eagle Eye,
Nope.
you are reading 2 points. Your blood pressure should always be what kind of number? It's a fraction.
But a whole number?
What kind of whole number?
Even.
An even number,
Oh.
because it's in
Oh, yeah.
twos.
Oh, right.
It's only in twos on this. So you come and tell me I got 129 over 31 or over 81, and I'm going to look at you like, what? Now, if you tell me your average comes in like that, then I know if I average, two whole numbers, that are even numbers, I can end up with odd numbers. But not in the beginning. Don't give me that. It's like, how do you hear that? How do you tell me you can read when that dial is either on a point or off a point? There's no other space in there. Okay?
What happens when you do it just when you hook it up to a machine and it's 129 over?
That is a digital.
Yeah,
And
so
a
it's
digital will read even and odd
Yeah.
numbers. You, with this,
Can't.
however, every study that they've done, and I encourage you to look at one of those for your summary articles, maybe toward 191 and 192, they do studies. The digital and the ones that don't require you to wear your stethoscope and listen
Right.
are not as accurate as a gauged and calibrated sphygmometer this way. And we won't allow them in the clinic.
Oh, yeah.
So this, now, you can have a backup. You get a reading that's high, you get another reading that's high, maybe faculty come over, they're doing the same, and you want to do a backup and use a different unit. But we don't even have any of those anymore, because we had one for a while.
We did for the arm.
And Miss Settle was here, and she had hearing aids, so we didn't make her take her hearing aids out, she used, and that was acceptable for her, but only for her. So, none of you should have a problem. We expect you to know how and be able to read the standard of care, which is this,
Gold standard.
the gold standard. Thank you. All right. So I'm gonna have that tonight. Sit that there.
It's most important at the hospital, and they have them all, that's scary.
Well, now if they're using the, they still should be
Yeah.
listening.
Right.
That's the standard.
Yeah.
But they're placing everything against their standard that they have there. The cuffs that fit here, the cuffs that fit here.
Don't they have finger ones too? Or are those for
No,
babies?
that's an
That's for-
oximeter.
Oh,
that's
that's
looking
something
at-
totally different?
That's at oxygen pressure and pulse
Oh,
pressure.
okay.
Pulse oxygen, yeah. A little different. All right. So I've got this where I want it. Come in here. Oops. This. Okay, and then I'm gonna slowly let it out. You can watch how it's going.
I think as soon as it starts twitching, doing that, that's when we start counting. Right there. See.
Ooh, Mr. Gamboa.
I knew it was gonna be high.
I
knew
So,
it.
we are
On that
gonna
beef
just
and
run
broccoli.
down.
I got 142 over 90.
serious?
Oh, get,
Yeah.
It started
Yeah.
clicking like up here.
I could
It
be
clicked
fantastic.
higher,
That's
but I'm not
that's
hearing.